Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, starting with the name of Allah, the Merciful, the Beneficent. As the time is going on, we believe the COVID-19 situation will settle and all of you must be in good state of health and working and going on with the routine of life. We have been looking for applied aspects of the epidemiology, and we have seen in the descriptive epidemiology, we have seen that I can say the certain informations can be achieved from the morbidity data and certain from the mortality data. And from the mortality data, we have seen the most important aspects are of course the measure of deaths occurring in a population, and the application of this data towards different aspects of the epidemiology. And the mortality data can be achieved from death certificates, which is of course not complete in developing countries and not reliable as well. And the other data which can be achieved through mortality is obviously we all know that the crude death rate, the specific death rates, case fatality proportions, and the case mortality, proportional mortality rate, and survival rate, of course. And with that, we have seen the adjusted or standardized death rates. And out of those adjusted standardized or standardizing, I can say the death rates or adjusting the death rates come through two aspects or two directions. One is obviously the direct adjustment. First of all, we have seen the adjustment, and then we have seen the direct adjustment, in which we saw that overall the expected deaths were same, but when we went for the specific death rate in a population, that was for the 15 years to 44 years, which was 6 in population A and 10 in population C, the result was different for different age specific rates, computation of the expected number of deaths by direct method. So this was the direct aspect, and out of direct aspect, when we saw the different death rates for different populations, the expected death rates were quite different. And this was for the direct adjustment of the rates. Then is we can see that the direct adjustment rate for group A was 7.4 per thousand, and for group B was 9.2 per thousand, because in group B the age population in 15 to 44 has more expectancy of death. Now is the indirect adjustment of the rate the other way to go for the adjusting or standardizing that death rate. The second technique is the indirect adjustment of the rates in I can say applied descriptive epidemiology. So see the indirect adjustment of the rates, indirect adjustment of the death rates. So the small number of deaths in one group leads to unstable age specific rates, or its age specific rates may not be known. Now in this situation, another method referred as indirect adjustment of rates is used, and in this indirect adjustment or indirect method, standardization is based on age specific rates rather than on age composition. How many people are of this age group, rather on going for that, rather we go for the age specific rates. So here the population whose rates form the basis for composition is referred as the standard population, in previous terms it was A population or is the standard population, and if two populations are to be compared by indirect method, the larger of the two is usually chosen as the standard because its rates tend to be more stable. In smaller populations, sometimes the sample may not be correct, or the representative of that population may not have that problem because of being in small number. However, if a developed and an underdeveloped countries are being compared, the developed country would probably be taken as standard, because for the standard we claim that we know the death rate of that population. So standard means in other terms is the population which is in a larger number, and for the developing and developed countries, so for the developed country it is considered standard because first thing is that the rate will be available for those countries. The developed countries may have a reliable rate. So regardless of the comparative size, since it is age specific rates might be available only for this country, which is a developed one. So the process of indirect adjustment consists of applying the age specific rates of the standard population to a population of interest, that is population A, which is kept as the reference, which is for which we have to calculate or indirectly get the adjustment of the rates. So the population A to yield a number of expected deaths. So this process is equivalent to asking what would be the number of deaths, expected deaths, if population were dying at the same age specific rates as population in the standard population. We have to say that if in Lahore people are dying at the rate of 2 per 100,000 in a month, and what would be the rate in Multan if it would be the same, and people living in Multan are this much. So a common way of carrying out indirect age adjustment to relate the total expected deaths thus obtained to observed deaths through a formula known as standardized mortality rate, SMR. Standardized mortality rate or SMR is equal to total observed death in a population and total expected deaths in that population. Actually, this total expected death would be the deaths in the standard population, and what we expect from the total observed deaths. So if this mortality ratio is greater than 1, it means that more deaths are observed in smaller or comparison population than would be expected on the basis of rates in the larger or standard population or the developed country population. If the ratio is less than 1, fewer deaths are observed than expected. It is the way by which we can get the indirect mortality rates. Then is the comparing with known indicators. We know the known indicators, we can compare them. Obviously the indicators are the death rate, the mortality rate, the morbidity rate, obviously the school going age, whatever it is, the marriage rate, the other indicators are there. So after collecting all the parameters, specifications relating to the disease situation in a population and developing well defined indicators with available ones relating to other populations and subgroups of the same population. I repeat, after we have collected the parameters, the specifications relating to the disease situation in a population and developing well defined indicators with available ones relating to other populations and subgroups of the same population. By such comparison, we may conclude the possible etiology of the disease and identify the groups at risk of contracting certain diseases. So if we know the indicators of the disease, we are in a position, and we know the indicators from one population, then comparing the other population, we may identify the groups at high risk of contracting such and such disease. Formulation of the hypothesis, obviously we know the indicators, we know the death rates, we know that we realized, picked up the direct and indirect method by which we can pick up the rates. So the formulation of the hypothesis is very easy. At the end, conclusion is drawn and hypothesis formulated on basis of the research. Uses of descriptive epidemiology, for which we have been talking in all those previous 2-3 lectures. First, it provides the data regarding magnitude of the disease load and types of the disease problems prevailing within a community. So data, magnitude of the disease and the disease load and the types of the disease problems prevailing in the community. Provides clues to the disease etiology. We know the etiology of the disease through this. Provides background data for planning, organizing and evaluating preventive and curative services. Provides background data for planning, organizing and evaluating preventive and curative services. Contributes towards further fields of studies and research. This is those are the uses of descriptive epidemiology or applications of the descriptive epidemiology. Next is case report. This is a detailed study of case. It describes a single patient with an unusual feature of a disease or of the patient's history. Then is the case series. Case series, one case, other case, other case. So those are the collections of individual case reports on an unusual presentation for a single disease. So those are case series. Those may appear in certain populations which is under study. Those may occur in the established cities, or those may occur in the newly established colonies. Then is the subject selection. The investigators select individuals with new diseases or unusual presentation of the known diseases. That is called subject diseases, and the presentation is on the numerator. And of course measure the frequency. Obviously we are not in a position to identify. We do not know how many cases are picking up this unusual presentation. So denominator is none or no denominator. Then the measure of association. Obviously we are not in a position. Then is again none. And the level of analysis. Obviously level of analysis is one individual or individuals. So that is the level of, I can say, analysis. The advantages of this type of subject selection would be the recognition of the new case, because in subject selection we said the investigators select individuals with a new or unusual presentation of the disease. New disease, obviously we can say new disease. At the end of the day we can know that is the same disease with the same problem, but the presentation is different. And the second is recognition of the new disease or new presentation, and the formulation of a hypothesis regarding possible risk factors for the disease if we know the standard population. Then is the descriptive epidemiology. Advantages of descriptive epidemiology we have been discussing. Example is the 5 cases of Pneumocystis carinii pneumoniae, PCP, Pneumocystis carinii pneumoniae, were reported among young. The stress is on young, previously healthy homosexual men in Los Angeles, state of United States of America. Then is the obviously the Pneumocystis carinii pneumoniae, PCP, previously occurred only in older immunosuppressed cancer patients. Later on AIDS was identified. More cases, reports, case series suggested other risk factors for AIDS like IV drug abuse, blood transfusions would be indicators for the presentation of AIDS, and that would help us to know that the Pneumocystis carinii pneumonia can occur in the younger patients, homosexuals, if they have got AIDS in nowadays. Otherwise previously it used to be only with AIDS and IV blood transfusions. Now the hepatocellular carcinoma recognized in young women who used high doses of oral contraceptive pills. Then is those descriptive data formed the basis for analytical studies or analytical epidemiology. From that is knowledge of descriptive epidemiology, we can proceed in analytical epidemiology. Then is the disadvantage, obviously cannot test for statistical association because there is no relevant comparison group. Sometimes only the I can say adjusted or indirect direct methods for adjusted epidemiological knowledge is there. Otherwise the death rate is there or whatever it is. So then it is the disadvantage that we cannot proceed for a standard statistical research. Then is the correlational or ecological study. I beg your pardon, correlational or ecological study, a study in which the units of analysis are populations or groups of people rather than individuals. So one individual is not under study, whole of the population or whole of the village or whole of the group or whole of the society or whole of the union council is under study. So a study in which the units of analysis are populations and not the individuals. So those studies look for associations between exposure and outcomes in populations but not in individuals. This is ecological studies, I must say. Each data point represents a population rather than an individual. Inferences about individuals based on aggregate data are also weakened by the ecological fallacy. All aggregate statistics are subject to compositional effects, because obviously sometimes whole of the community may not be suffering from the same, but some individual may be having a standard problem. So it is ecological studies. This does not reflect some person having certain specific characteristics, certain characteristic indicators, and those do not come under this study. Then is the obviously the advantages of this ecological studies: relatively inexpensive and quick. Whole of the studies, whole of the population is under study is inexpensive and quick. Uses already collected data, usually from different sources. We all know that the analytic and descriptive knowledge is there, descriptive data is there, other data is there. So all that data is utilized through this way. Good for generating hypothesis. Obviously the hypothesis are the synopsis can be created, a new horizon can be opened up, a theory can be given, a hypothesis can be produced, but it cannot be a sort of a statistical or sort of a analytical study, but only the hypothesis there for analytical or we can say this such type of study are for evaluating. So it is good for generating hypothesis and for evaluating the exposure disease relationship when individual level data are not available. So we can make it over a population, and overall we can say that whole of the population is exposed to that disease. So exposure disease relationship when individual data for that disease is not available. Disadvantages of the ecological study or correlational study or whatever we can say, the group population study, because data are for groups, so cannot link the disease and the exposure in individuals. Sometimes certain individuals, good height individuals, immune patients or immune individuals or non-immune or non-vaccinated people, so we cannot go for it. We go for the whole of the population, and sometimes they may not reflect what we want. So cannot control the potential confounders. Sometimes the confounders are there. Sometimes somebody is deceived. The correct information is not there. So cannot control the potential for confounder. Then is the data represents average exposure rather than the individual exposure. So obviously, even if we know the data, we know the data for the whole of the population. So we can, by certain simple methods, simple statistical method, we can have the average exposure rate, or average exposure indicator, or indicator for average exposure, but we cannot have the individual exposure. So it cannot determine a dose-response relationship. We cannot know that sometimes the certain disease is with the, with the gradient of the severity of the disease. So we cannot find that. We can say whether it causes corona or it does not cause corona. How much the severity of the corona will be there, we cannot pick up, because we are looking for the whole of the population. We are after the total number. We are not after a single individual. So we cannot determine a dose-response relationship. Then the ecological fallacy is an error in the inference that occurs when association observed between variables at a group level is assumed to exist in an individual level. Obviously, that is a biggest disadvantage of this type of correlational or ecological study, that we apply whole of the knowledge of the population over one individual. We have just supposed that the inference is there. We just put on the inference. We just suppose that this information is for the single individual as well. Then is the cross-sectional study or the prevalence study, which actually is a sort of a very, very much important, or the backbone of the epidemiology. We continue with this in next talk. Stay blessed. Goodbye.